The prostitute mimics the woman clothed with the sun, and likewise the dragon mimics others.
Then a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and with the moon under her feet, and on her head was a crown of 12 stars. She was pregnant and was screaming in labor pains, struggling to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven, a huge red dragon, that had 7 heads and 10 horns, and on its heads were 7 diadem crowns. Revelation 12:1-3.
Dragons have regained popularity in books and fantasy games. However, as the Bible is not part of the fantasy world, we may feel unsettled when we find dragons filling its pages. The imagery presented in the book of Revelation is vivid. The dragon in Revelation 12:1-3 is part of a series of images, disclosed as an introduction to the end times as the 7th trumpet, the second woe from the end, has been blown? But what can we conclude from such imagery? Who is the woman? What is the dragon? How do we interpret such imagery, which reminds us more of Greek mythology than most of the content of the scriptures? John's imagery is intended to convey meaning, but at the same time, John uses imagery because it is flexible. Both the woman and the dragon have flexible qualities, allowing them to be useful to the author. First, let's look at the woman. There are 2 women in the book of Revelation. The first is the woman of God. The second is the woman in chapter 17, a prostitute. This contrast reminds us of the 2 women in Proverbs 1-10. One wise woman and the other a prostitute. In Revelation, the first woman is clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet. The second woman is dressed in purple and scarlet, the colors of the earth's emperors. The first woman has a crown of 12 stars. The second woman has gold and jewels. The first woman gives birth, but the second woman appears barren. In all respects, they are contradictory. We know that the second woman represents Rome. Does the first woman represent Jerusalem? There are several answers to that question. Some scholars point to the 12 stars and say that they represent the 12 tribes of Israel. Indeed, the entire image, including the sun and moon, reminds us of Joseph's dream, Genesis 37-9. Other scholars look at the birth event and state that the woman is Mary. Yet others explain that the sign appears in the sky. Therefore, the imagery must be an idealized representation of the children of God, the true bride of God. I believe we don't have to choose between these interpretations. Jewish thought often oscillates between singular and plural forms. For example, in the servant songs of the second part of the book of Isaiah, the servant sometimes means Israel, Isaiah 49-3, and sometimes an individual 49-5. In the book of Daniel, the term Son of Man 7:13-14 and the holy people of the Most High 7:18 are also used interchangeably. So in our imagery, the woman is the people of God, the faithful nation of Israel. The woman is also Mary, who gives a special sign to this faithful group by giving birth to the Messiah. In the second part of the chapter, the depiction of the woman changes as she is persecuted. Does she still represent the faithful people of Israel? Or does she now represent the broader people of God, both Jews and non-Jews? Certainly. Her flight into the wilderness reminds us of Jesus' words, carried out by the Jewish Christian Church before 70 AD. See the article on the Sermon of Jesus Christ on the Mount of Olives in Matthew 24:1-25 and 20-46. Does that then mean that God will protect the group of Jewish Christians? Or should we remember his words in Matthew 16:18? That the gates of Hades will not overcome his church, so the woman signifies his entire church. Perhaps both are true. The imagery is about the flight of the people of Israel, and Pharaoh into the wilderness and the flight of the church from Jerusalem during the War of 66 to 70 AD. This shows that God will watch over and protect his church, especially during the reign of the successful Satan for 1,260 days. All the lies and power of Satan deployed by the dragon cannot destroy the church. But at the same time, the dragon declares war on the children and the woman, that is, Christians. So while the church as a whole is protected and cannot be suppressed, individual Christians will experience the wrath of Satan, even possibly dying as martyrs. The second is the dragon. This imagery is drawn from the Leviathan in the Old Testament, the sea serpent with many heads. The sea serpent is sometimes mythical, in the sense that it is not a historical manifestation and sometimes an enemy of God's children, like the nation of Egypt or Assyria. This imagery is conveyed to John through Daniel, who describes the fourth beast with 10 horns. John, of course, makes it very clear who he believes Daniel is talking about, or who he interprets back into Daniel's dream, as he writes in Revelation 12-9.
So that huge dragon, the ancient serpent, the one called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, was thrown down to the earth, and his angels along with him.
But the dragon also has a physical body. And I saw a beast rising out of the sea, Revelation 13-1, has 7 heads and 10 horns like a dragon, like the beast ridden by the great prostitute, Revelation 17-3. The prostitute mimics the woman clothed with the sun, and likewise the dragon mimics others. Revelation 12-3 records that he has 7 crowns, while in Revelation 19:12, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords has many crowns on his head. The dragon, of course, seeks to destroy Christ, the child in our story. In this regard, John is not interested in discussing the life and death of Christ, but moves directly from birth to his ascension. But we must remember that in his gospel, the lifting up of the Son of Man encompasses both the cross and the ascension. So this does not mean that the cross is absent from his thinking. John's attention is on the war between the dragon and the people of God. The war consists of 2 stages, in heaven and on earth. The war in heaven is fought by Michael, the great prince who has charge of your people, referring to Daniel's people, Daniel 12-1, and his angels. The dragon has swept away 1/3 of the angels with him in his fall, so he also fights against the angels. But he loses. Although God never fights directly but through his angels, his victory is certain. The devil loses his access to heaven,